This is lesson 11 rather, of exercise 3, practical applications of simultaneous equations. This will be the last lesson in regards to chapter 3. And we're looking at how we can use simultaneous equations and the method of solving simultaneous equations for real life problems. This is a practical way of using simultaneous equations. It is done a lot by businesses to make sure they can get the most profit or most feasible type solutions. So believe it or not, it can be used in the outside world. It's not just methods that we're just using for the sake of solving random letters. It can be used in real life situations. Okay, so simultaneous equations can be used in real life problems and real situations. It is important to define the unknown quantities with appropriate variables before setting up certain equations and then hence solving it. Okay, so the first example here shows a template of what's required to answer specific practical application questions, and I'll run you through how this template works and what's required in order to answer a certain question. Okay, I will say that the first type of question that you approach, the first few actually are quite tricky because, well, it's easy to have a template to help you set everything up and try to solve for it. It's deciphering what equations that you need to write down is the tricky part. Okay, because you've been given a set of information which we'll look at in the first example, and then you have to turn this into two equations. Okay, so you will struggle, and that's completely fine. But in saying that, hopefully these two examples will help you out. So the question says tickets for a movie costs $19.50 for adults and $14.50 for children. Okay, so we've got two types of tickets, price for adults and price for children. 200 tickets were sold, giving a total of $3,265. How many children tickets were sold? So this is quite a lot of information to start off with, but we can dissect this question bit by bit in order for us to turn it into a format where we can then just easily solve using simultaneous equations. Okay, so the first step says choose appropriate variables to represent an adult ticket and a child ticket. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. We can just say let A equal an adult ticket. That makes sense. A for adult. So let A equal an adult ticket. And then you can imagine that C will be for a child ticket. So C is equal to a child ticket. And having these two variables, well, it seems obvious to do A and C. You'll be surprised how many students decide to choose random variables that don't necessarily relate to the context itself, and then they get confused. So it's obvious and goes without saying. Choose A for adult and C for child. Just makes it easier when dealing with the question. Okay. Alright, so step 2. Write two equations using the information given in the question. Label equations as 1 and 2. This right here is the most crucial part to answering this type of question. If you don't get the correct equation or set of equations, your answer could potentially be completely wrong. Okay. So what information do we know? So we know that the price of the tickets for adults is this amount, $19.50, and for children, $14.50. And while this information is definitely reliable and will be used, it can't be just used by itself. We need a bit more information. Okay. It's saying here that 200 tickets were sold, giving a total of 3,265. Now, believe it or not, that sentence in itself here will provide us with our two equations in conjunction with these prices. So what do I mean by that? Well, we know that 200 tickets were sold, and if there were a certain amount of adult tickets and a certain amount of children tickets, we know that that is going to equal 200. Because the question says 200 tickets were sold. I don't know how many adult tickets were sold, and I don't know how many children tickets were sold. But I do know that when we add these two together, we will get 200 based on the question here. Or based on this statement here, rather. Okay? So that one here is our first equation. Okay? Now, the second fact says that this cost $3,265 when the 200 tickets were sold. Now, we can't just go ahead and say, oh, okay, adult ticket and child ticket, A plus C, is then going to equal $3,265, because that is just going to mimic the first equation, but with a different equal sign, and that's actually not solvable, because you can't have A plus C equal to something and then A plus C equal to something else. So this is where the cost of the adult and the cost of the child ticket comes into play. And we know that if we sold a amount of tickets, or a certain amount of adult tickets, it does cost $19.50. So $19.50 times the amount of adult tickets plus $14.50 times the amount of children tickets is going to give us a total amount of $3,265. And this right here is our second equation. Okay, so let's just dissect this one again. We sold a certain amount of adult tickets. Okay, we don't know how many we've sold, but we do know that the amount we sold, if we times that by $19.50, and the amount of children tickets that we sold, again, we don't know this, we sold it at a cost of $14.50. If we multiply these two together respectively, add them together, it should give us $3,265 based on the total amount that's been given in the question. Okay, this is a tricky part to get, and it's not obvious to write down straight away because of the way that the information has been given. But if you can get these two sets of equations correct, then the rest is really easy. Okay, so now that we've got our two equations, I'll scroll this down, I'll use that there. Now we've got our two equations. Step 3 says that we have to choose the appropriate method, that is either elimination or the substitution method, to solve for the equations. So by now, from the previous exercises, you should be able to know which method to use. Remember, you do have that flow chart to help you out. And then what we can do is solve this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do something really sneaky. Okay. And this is because we have a format, A plus C equals something and another A plus C is equal to something. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rearrange equation 1. Rearrange equation 1 so that way I can be able to substitute A equals something into the second equation. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to arrange the first equation. So that way, substitution method can be used. So the substitution method So substitution method can be used. In other words, I am going to rearrange this just in one step. I'm going to make equation 1 look like this. A is equal to 200 minus C. Because what I've done is I've subtracted C from both sides to eliminate C here. So I can get A by itself, right here. And whatever I do to the left, I do to the right. So what I'm left with is 200 minus C. So technically these two equations are the same, they're just written in a different format. But I've purposely done this so that way I can then use a substitution method. So anywhere I see A within the second equation, I'll just replace it with a 200 minus C. Okay, so I'm going to sub equation, sub-equation, I'll call this 3. I'm going to sub-equation 3 into equation 2. So sub-equation 3 into equation 2. So anywhere I see an A, I'm going to replace it with a 200 minus C. So $19.50 times 200 minus C plus $14.50 times C is equal to $3,265. So now all we have is a bit of algebraic cleanup to do in order to get C by itself. So whenever we have a number outside of the bracket, we times by both what's on the inside, the first and the second one. So $19.50 times 2,000 is 3,900. And $19.50 times minus C is just 19.50 times C. Okay, to make sure you consider the minus. Then we plus $14.50 C, and that's equal to 3,265. Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna see a C here. I'm gonna see a C here, and I'm gonna tidy that up a bit. And what I might do is, after I write this line, I'm gonna pause this because I'm going up to my limit of 15 minutes, and I'm gonna do a part 2 for this. So minus $19.50 C plus $14.50 C. So we have these amounts of C's. They simplify to minus 5C. And this is equal to 3,265. Okay. I'm going to pause it here. We're going to continue on with this question. Get our answer for C, substitute it into one of the formulas, or one of the equations rather, so we can get our A value. Meet you in part 2.